Oceania. Humans spread to Australia and New Guinea by about 60,000 years ago, with agriculture beginning in New Guinea about 3000 BC. Aboriginal Australians retained a hunter-gatherer society, exploiting the varied plant and animal resources available to them. The peoples of New Guinea began to develop an extensive maritime culture where they sailed across the ocean with large outrigger canoes. They cultivated taro and yams and used chickens and pigs as food animals. Europe. Greece. Greece is home to the first advanced civilizations in Europe, beginning with the Cycladic civilization on the islands of the Aegean Sea around 3200 BC, 143, and the Minoan civilization in Crete, 2700 to 1500 BC. 144, 145, the Minoans built large palaces, decorated with frescoes and wrote in the undeciphered script known as Linear A. The Mycenaean civilization, the first distinctively Greek civilization, later emerged on the mainland, 1600 to 1100 BC, consisting of a network of palace-centered states and writing. The earliest attested form of Greek with the Linear B script, the Mycenaeans, gradually absorbed the Minoans, but collapsed violently around 1200 BC, along with several other civilizations in the eastern Mediterranean, during the regional event known as the Late Bronze Age collapse. This ushered in a period known as the Greek Dark Ages, from which written records are absent. The Archaic period in Greece is generally considered to have lasted from around the 8th century BC to the invasion by Xerxes in 480 BC. This period saw the expansion of the Greek world around the Mediterranean, with the founding of Greek city-states as far afield as Sicily in the west and the Black Sea in the east. Politically, the Archaic period in Greece saw the collapse of the power of the old aristocracies, with democratic reforms in Athens and the development of Sparta's unique constitution. The end of the Archaic period also saw the rise of Athens, which would come to be a dominant power in the Classical period, after the reforms of Solon and the tyranny of Pisistratus. The classical Greek world was dominated throughout the 5th century BC by the major powers of Athens and Sparta. Through the Delian League, Athens was able to convert Pan-Hellenist sentiment and fear of the Persian threat into a powerful empire, and this, along with the conflict between Sparta and Athens culminating in the Peloponnesian War, was the major political development of the first part of the classical period, the period in Greek history from the death of Alexander the Great until the rise of the Roman Empire and its conquest of Egypt in 30 BC is known as the Hellenistic period. After Alexander's death, a series of wars between his successors eventually led to 3 large states being formed from parts of Alexander's conquests, each ruled by a dynasty founded by one of the successors. These were the Antigonids, the Seleucids, and the Ptolemies. These 3 kingdoms, along with smaller kingdoms, spread Greek culture and lifestyles into Asia and Egypt. These varying states eventually were conquered by Rome or the Parthian Empire. Rome. Ancient Rome was a civilization that grew out of the city-state of Rome, originating as a small agricultural community founded on the Italian peninsula in 8th century BC, with influences from Greece and other Italian civilizations, such as the Etruscans. Traditionally, Rome was founded as a monarchy that then became a republic. Rome expanded through the Italian peninsula through a series of wars in the 5th through the 3rd centuries BC. This expansion brought the Roman Republic into conflict with Carthage, leading to a series of Punic Wars that ended with the destruction of Carthage. Indiana. 146 BC. Rome then expanded into Greece and the eastern Mediterranean, while a series of internal conflicts led to the Republic becoming an empire ruled by an emperor by the 1st century AD. Throughout the 1st and 2nd centuries AD, the empire grew slightly while spreading Roman culture throughout its boundaries. A number of factors led to the eventual decline of the Roman Empire. The western half of the empire, including Hispania, Gaul, and Italy, eventually broke into independent kingdoms in the 5th century AD. The Eastern Roman Empire, governed from Constantinople, is referred to as the Byzantine Empire after AD 476, the traditional date for the fall of Rome and subsequent onset of the Middle Ages. Late Antiquity. The Roman Empire underwent considerable social, cultural and organizational change, starting with reign of Diocletian, who began the custom of splitting the empire into eastern and western halves ruled by multiple emperors. Constantine the Great began the process of Christianizing the empire and established a new capital at Constantinople. Migrations of Germanic tribes disrupted Roman rule from the late 4th century onwards, culminating in the eventual collapse of the empire in the west in 476, replaced by the so-called barbarian kingdoms. The resultant cultural fusion of Greco-Roman, Germanic, and Christian traditions formed the cultural foundations of Europe. There has been attempt by scholars to connect European late antiquity to other areas in Eurasia. Nomads and Iron Age peoples. The Celts were a diverse group of tribal societies in Iron Age Europe. Proto-Celtic culture formed in the early Iron Age in Central Europe, Hallstatt period, named for the site in present-day Austria. By the later Iron Age, Latine period, Celts had expanded over wide range of lands, as far west as Ireland and the Iberian Peninsula, as far east as Galatia, central Anatolia, and as far north as Scotland. By the early centuries AD, following the expansion of the Roman Empire and the great migrations of Germanic peoples, Celtic culture had become restricted to the British Isles. The Huns were a nomadic people who formed a large state in Eastern Europe by about AD 400, and under their leader Attila, they fought against both sections of the Roman Empire. However, after Attila's death, the state fell apart and the Huns' influence in history disappeared. The Hun-Xiongnu connection is controversial at best and is often disputed but is also not completely discredited. 167-168. Migration of Germanic peoples to Britain from what is now northern Germany and southern Scandinavia is attested from the 5th century. 169. Groups of Goths migrated into Western Europe, with the Ostrogoths eventually settling in Italy before being conquered by the Lombards. 170. Related people, the Visigoths, settled in Spain, founding a kingdom that lasted until it was conquered by Islamic rulers in the AD 700s.